So before we get started, just quick intros. I said that I'd lead it off. So I'm James, co-founder and CEO of Swayable. Swayable measures persuasion. So it's a data platform used by an increasing number of the world's top marketers to measure the lift of creative as a pre-test. When they're doing upper funnel or mid-funnel marketing, it's important to know more than just the performance statistics of the creative before you run a campaign. And so Swayable as a data platform focuses on learning and proving what creative lift you get from different choices of creative assets. So Swayable's actually really proud to do a lot of work with marketers and brand storytellers like Maura. Part of what was so exciting about the collaboration with Maura and her team is that we have a lot of focus on social impact. Folks may have seen our Swayable AWNY ESG brand performance index, for example, tracking the top 200 brands on the way that consumers perceive whether they're doing good things in the world. Maura's team has been right in the middle of doing some really cool things for communities around the world, underserved communities, veterans and others. We'll see some of those stories in a minute. So it's been incredibly exciting partnering with her and the team. And I'll throw it to you, Maura, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, James. So I'm Maura. I run the policy paid media team at DoorDash. And you can kind of, from a high level, think of us as the creative and marketing arm of the public policy team. We do everything from creative production to overseeing the owned media channels for DoorDash Impact, which is our policy and impact brand, and of course, a lot of advertising campaigns. But I do want to make it clear I'm not a performance marketer, I'm not a growth marketer. My background is in doing persuasion campaigns and trying to change hearts and minds. So with that, I want to get into the problem that we've been trying to solve. I have been working in digital for a very long time, and while it's always exciting when there's new platforms that come out and there's some new ways of measuring things, by and large, digital KPIs have remained the same. And it's great in terms of giving us the ability to measure engagement among our core audiences and kind of, ad A is performing better than ad B because it got higher engagement. We can see that, and we certainly still want to focus on that optimization, but it never helps us answer the question, is this moving the needle? Are we changing opinions? Are we persuading people? And so we set out to solve this problem by partnering with Swayable to do creative testing, and we instituted what I felt was a pretty ambitious goal to try to make a benchmark that every ad that we would put into market had to, at a baseline, have a lift of 5 points or more in brand favorability. So with that, I'll kick it over to James to walk through how it works on the Swayable platform.
Yeah, these guys have some super ambitious goals, and I'll share a little bit about how we do the measurement on our side before throwing it back to Maura to give you a look at the results and the creative itself. So the whole idea behind doing this kind of measurement is if you don't know what lift you're getting, you're either lucky or you're wrong. And it's far better to have the best available evidence about what lift your campaign can cause before you spend all the media dollars, which are typically the largest chunk of budget in any kind of campaign, and especially for upper and mid-funnel creative, where a click-through rate or an immediate sign-up is not the point of that storytelling. If you don't have a measurement of the lift that the creative can cause, you're really just shooting in the dark. And so the whole business argument for this transition that we're seeing a really large fraction of the world's top marketers moving quickly on is this spread, that you can have a very large difference. It's not just a sort of a couple of percent click-through rate optimization. We're talking doubling, tripling. We can even see as high as 10x in some situations the impact that the campaign can cause, because there's just a very wide range in how effective stories are at doing this work of changing opinion. And you can see that Maura's benchmark of 5 points gets you quite far up that distribution. And so by insisting on that bar, you're just cutting off all of the wasted production and wasted media that the non-optimal creative represents. So the big idea here is just that we've lived for about 15 years in these dashboards. It's been 15 years since the first serious digital ad platforms came out, and we've been bombarded during that time with information about the distribution effectiveness of the campaigns. Did they get seen? Did they have reach? Did people click on them? Did we get some kind of emoji response? Those things are important. There's a good reason why we track them. The problem is that you can search all of those dashboards and many others like them for as long as you like, and there's no metric on there for, did I persuade someone? Did I change their mind? Do they love DoorDash more? Do they want to go and buy something in a store later? The problem with that is that's most marketing. Most marketing is not click here, buy now, sign up for my t-shirt, buy my trinket on Instagram. That's a great business. $1 trillion of market capitalization came out of that, but it's not most marketing. And so, the big challenge is, like, what if we could actually measure the impact on people's attitudes and opinions? What if we could, the vision behind the work that we do on my team is to say, what if we had a dashboard that gave you a measurement of that as easily as the sort of traditional click-through rate, view count, performance marketing gave you? And really where we've started in that work is by observing that there's a known answer to that problem. There's a known way to measure persuasion or to measure the lift in intent or brand consideration, product consideration, brand love. And the answer is called the randomized control trial. Anybody in science, and my co-founding team and I are all scientists by training, this is sort of second nature. You want to prove something, you need a control group and a test group, and many folks in insights are very familiar with this. The problem is that if it takes a month and a half, which is basically how long it took before we launched Swayable, it's not much use to you. You've got to take a decision tomorrow. You've got to choose something. So guessing is kind of the best you got if you aren't able to get that data in time. And so basically, by getting a cool team of technologists and taking advantage of cloud computing and the mobile app ecosystem, we're able to deliver that now in 24 hours instead of in 6 weeks. That lets teams like Maura's actually take decisions informed by the best available evidence of whether the creative will in fact work. So this is all how it works. Happy to get into Q&A later. It's a little peek at the respondent flow. But I'll get you to the interesting actual content. Throw it over to Maura, if we can advance the slide. Try clicking it one more time. Give it to you.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, my team oversees DoorDash Impact, which is our policy and impact brand. And I wanted to just briefly touch on our 3 core content pillars because the content I'm about to show you falls under these. The first is the future of work. So we believe that workers should have flexible earning opportunities and should be able to work whenever they want for however long they want. And today you're going to hear a story from a Dasher named James, different James. The second is called Empowering Merchants. Our mission is to grow and empower local economies, and merchants are really the heartbeat of that. So today I'm going to focus on an initiative called the DoorDash Accelerator for Local Restaurants. This is an initiative that's super cool. So in addition to getting a grant from DoorDash to help fund their small business, restaurant owners also get access to an 8-week curriculum where they get to learn entrepreneurial skills and network with other restaurant owners. And today you'll hear a story about that. And finally, broadening food access. So I want to highlight an initiative called Project Dash, which was founded in 2018. And through Project Dash, we partner with social impact organizations, food pantries, and food banks to make sure that we're leveraging our DoorDash delivery, logistics, and technology to get food to those in need. So before I dive into the videos, I just want to briefly mention the run of shows. So I'm going to show you a video and then show you its digital performance. And then at the end, we're going to circle back and stack them against each other. And I'm going to ask you guys to vote on which you think move the needle the most on brand favorability. So here we go. Here's our video number 1.
I love the concept of Project Dash and what it's about and what it's doing for the community.
Project Dash to me is really simple. It's helping people, it's helping families who are struggling.
With Project Dash, we do weekly deliveries to households from the food bank. We submit ride requests to DoorDash every day, and then DoorDash schedules drivers for all of those orders to be picked up from the food bank and delivered to people's doorsteps.
Being able to connect to a program through DoorDash to where, again, I could meet the needs of those who need it, to me was really important, and it just made the most sense. Why not go out there and do it?
People have said that had it not been for this program, they would have lost their housing or they wouldn't have been able to feed their children. And so the resource that this program provides is really important.
All right, so here's how this ad performed. Obviously, there's a lot of metrics we can choose, but since it's a video, we wanted to kind of make sure that across the board we're finding the same metrics for each video, because we did them and we ran them in different campaigns. So they all ran on Facebook, they all ran on programmatic, and here you see on Facebook that we get 77% of users watch this video to at least 15 seconds on Facebook, and then on programmatic, 70% completion rate. Don't worry, we will circle back. Here's the next video. This is our dasher, James.
I'm a combat veteran in the U.S. Army. I suffer from PTSD and reintegration disorder. Some days are great, some days are horrible. Working a normal 9-to-5 job's hard. That's when DoorDash came into my life, and it completely changed everything. DoorDash gives me my schedule, my time, my flexibility. I have 2 daughters. My oldest is 13. My youngest is 11. I missed a lot of time with them. My daughters need me, I'm there. They have a sporting event come up, I'm there. You still make your appointments, you can still keep yourself healthy. I love DoorDash. My name is James, I'm a combat veteran and a dasher.
Love James. And here's how this one performed. So on Facebook, 80% of users watch this to 15 seconds or more. And on programmatic, 64% completion rate. So still very solid, but slightly different from our Project Dash video. And finally,
this is the Freakin' Rican restaurant in Astoria, Queens. We serve authentic Puerto Rican food. When you come to the Freakin' Rican, I want you to feel a sense of community. You're part of our family. DoorDash Accelerator for Local Restaurants was a huge help because they gave us the grant that helped us start our delivery service. They also provided a 7-week course. Without it, the business wouldn't have survived. It's been amazing, the partnership with them. I am Derek Lopez, and I am the original Freakin' Rican.
Got to order that afterwards. Looks good.
we get a lot of that in the comments. Everyone's like excited to go there. So this is how the Freakin' Rican performed. 78% through play rate on Facebook, 62% on programmatic. So which ad do you think created the most lift in favorability? I'm gonna put the stats up first so you can see them against each other. We've got Project Dash on the left, James, and then the Freakin' Rican. Different content pillars, somewhat similar performance. You can imagine analyzing this data and not really knowing what to make of it if you had to make a choice of which to put in market. So show of hands, who thinks it was Project Dash? Okay. Who thinks it was James the Dasher? All right. And then finally, the Freakin' Rican. Anyone? All right, it's kind of a mixed bag.
It's a tie between the first two, maybe.
Yeah. All right, so we ran these all through Swayable, and our North Star metric, again, is favorability. So that's the one I'm going to focus on here. Here's the results. So you see that the Project Dash video, despite being twice as long, which we know people drop off significantly when videos tend to run long, had a lift of over 10 points, which is pretty remarkable. Again, these all made the benchmark, so they all went into market, but Project Dash almost double what the James video was, and then Freakin' Rican pretty solid at 7.5.
Yeah, these are all strong scores.
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a quick deeper dive on the Swayable dashboard just to kind of showcase the different attributes that we're tracking. You really can customize it however you want. For purposes, our team's purposes, were really focused on favorability and trust, but also other attributes that really are focused more on kind of like the social impact space that James was mentioning. So for me, favorability and community impact are probably the two most important that we focus on. And you could see Project Dash was really kind of crushing it across the board. I mean, they all did very well, but there's some fluctuation in the other two a bit. But yeah, the point here is just to show that the digital performance wasn't really telling us a story, and we couldn't really glean any insights about the likelihood that we were shifting opinions. So with Swayable, we're able to have a higher degree of confidence when we put an ad in market that we will, when we put money behind it in a media campaign, we will shift opinions. So what's next? So I just wanted to touch on kind of our insights operation that we have on my team, lots of different research and data going on. So this is kind of like the flow of things. We get our data from Swayable, and that helps inform our ad buys and the money that we're putting behind them. We partner with other insights vendors to do pre-campaign surveys and establish benchmarks and goals for our campaigns. We also do audience modeling for persona definition and helping us to learn the different media mixes of different audiences, where we should do the placement of our buys. Then we continue to monitor movement within each audience by doing mid and post-campaign surveys. And then afterwards, with all this data, we can take that to leadership and to other stakeholders and really have proof points for future campaigns and investing more in reputation marketing. Because I think that what has been so difficult for us up until this point, up until partnering with partners like Swayable and some of our other vendors, is just that we don't have a perfect science to reputation marketing. It's very, very different than growth marketing, where you can say we're investing A and we feel like that will lead to yielding B sales or something like that. We can't do that. So with this, we're able to say confidently that we feel like we're going to move the needle, and look, we did move the needle, and here's by how many points. So, I'm doing takeaway one.
Sure.
Yeah, so just the first takeaway is that brand and purpose storytelling should be top drivers for growth. I know that in today's macroeconomic climate, a lot of companies are making budget cuts and have been focusing on growth marketing, and it's so incredibly important that they continue to do that, but they really should invest as well in purpose storytelling. We're seeing the metrics there. And that you can't just measure success using old digital metrics, because oftentimes it's not really telling you what you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the example Maura gave is just really critical. If you have those old digital metrics, you know something, about the distribution effectiveness, people watching it or engaging with it, but you don't know if it persuaded them. And that used to be because you couldn't, and there was no way to figure it out in time to take a decision. But the really key point here is that new tech does let you measure it. So, what was true 5 years ago, even, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, is no longer true. You can make those measurements now as easily as the performance marketing, the traditional performance marketing. In fact, we would argue that it's time for us to really rethink the word performance marketing. People doing the kind of marketing that Maura's doing, have performance. We want to sort of reclaim that word a little bit and say, they have performance metrics too, and you can get them now as easily as the click-through rates. And specifically, point 3 is that the way to do that is RCT pre-testing. Obviously, that's what our team is dedicated to, but we don't want to make this just a pitch for Swayable. You need to use an approach, a methodology that proves something. And if you can do that in time to take a decision, you're way ahead of the game compared to those that can't.
Yeah, and finally, I think it's just important to challenge our assumptions on what content we think is going to work, and that's what I love so much about having the data to back it up, because oftentimes internal stakeholders will have really strong opinions of what content they think you should make, what stories they think will move the needle, and I think it's really important to explore creating different types of content and testing it, and then having the proof points to say, actually, we know for a fact that this is what works the most, and it's not that, or maybe it is that, but you have to have the data to show it.
Love it.
Yeah, so Q&A?
Yeah, Q&A. I guess if we click it, we'll see some questions. All right. Shall I read this one out? We're only starting to get them in, so feel free to type some more in if you go to Slido and go to insights-ny, or you can put your hand up, but there's one that we're looking at here. How do you set metrics that can be directly correlated to in-market performance? Do you see variability in KPIs for different organizations? I don't know, do you want to take that, or do you want to take the first one and I take the second one? Or?
Yeah, so I think for the first part of it, we're still, at least on digital, we're monitoring the same KPIs that we have available to us. We just have to kind of couch it with, you know, the Swayable data in the beginning, and then also the audience modeling data, and then the pre and post surveys. There really isn't an in-market KPI that we've found at this point that can consistently monitor opinions shifting.
Yeah, we get this question a lot, and maybe I can speak to sort of the broader range of, you know, of clients that we work with. Clearly, the reason for doing any kind of marketing is ultimately you want the company to grow, and ultimately that shows up in sales. Everyone believes that there's a funnel here, that you get a sale once people like what you're selling and have thought about that a little bit, and you can draw that funnel however you want: consideration, awareness, you know, intent. But there's obviously some process that has to happen before the transaction happens, and the bigger the sale, the more important, or the more repeated, you know, the more the work of the brand storytelling is crucial for that. And you know, the brands that do it well exist, and the ones that, you know, challenge that assumption tend to really not exist. So yeah, that said, we've actually done a lot of in-market validation studies, you know, with brands who then will deliberately say, okay, let's take a market where we're optimizing our upper funnel campaign creative, and another one that's a holdout group where we're not. Now, it's a very expensive test to do because you're running a bunch of media against creative that the pre-testing has said is not going to work as well. But if you do that, you can probably all guess what happens, which is that you can see in the market that had the not optimized creative that the sales figures, which show up over the space of, you know, many weeks to, you know, a month or more later, are significantly lower than in the market where you've optimized it. So we did a big public case study with that, for example, with Bain & Company. We presented here actually last year. So, you know, spoiler alert, upper funnel marketing, brand storytelling matters. You know, it's the reason why brands do it. And you can prove that. So here's a whole bunch here. I don't know, Maura, do you want to pick one? What's the relationship between favorability and sales? Or how do you run the study and get results in a day? Do you want to pick one?
Well, what's the relationship between favorability and sales? I think we would all love to know the answer to that question. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's something that we're chipping away at. I can say that reputation marketing is a long game. It is not like an A + B = C situation, because changing hearts and minds and changing opinions it takes time, and it really has a lot to do with human psychology, and you know, there's a lot of external forces that can affect things as well. Like if there's bad press or, you know, world events, things can shift opinions that you just have no control over. But I think what we have seen and what we are seeing brands invest more in over time is this like longer term relationship building with consumers, where they're building more brand loyalty, and it matters to kind of the long-term retention of those customers. So I can't give like a monetary correlation, but I think that over time that correlation is there.
I like this question about how do you convince a client to spend production dollars to produce multiple executions? Why should they invest production dollars for a pre-test? So what's so cool about this question is like, you know, just watching brand after brand go through this journey where they start with just finished creative, they test that because the big dollars get spent in media once they make the decisions. But then they start to realize, you know, the light bulb moment goes off, and then the processes start to get redesigned when they realize, you know what, you can test earlier stage versions, rough cut, you know, messages. You can test what we call prototype creative, which is like a campaign concept that's been packaged up so it can be presented to a consumer in a natural, consumer-friendly way, but really represents the idea behind a multi-channel campaign that will have many executions across many channels. So really, the kind of convincing happens itself when people realize that they've taken a decision a week earlier, a month earlier, that kind of defines a whole downstream process of production that, that upstream decision needs to be informed by good evidence. And the role of agencies, I should point out, is really important here. The agencies themselves are in a fantastic position to actually lead the creating of that prototype content, to pitch concepts into their clients alongside the evidence that those concepts are going to generate the lift that they want with the target consumers that they're targeting.
Yeah, and I would just add that also in Swayable, we can test whatever we want. We can do message testing. We've tested a lot of static graphics and messages in that way. But I've found that in order for us to really see the potential impact, we have to really tell the story, and there isn't a way to do that with at least some sort of prototype.
Yeah, we do
So there's
that
got to be some
increasingly.
sort of investment there. But that being said, once you've done that initial investment on certain testing for certain content types, you tend to have an idea moving forward of what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, testing, I mean, Maura's point at the end about testing your assumptions, a lot of the times that's what the clients and their agencies are doing with the test. They're testing an assumption of a certain kind of character or a certain plank of the value prop or a certain even way of talking about the brand. There's all these decisions that go into the brief and then go into the creative execution and development. Those are all assumptions, and mostly they're not tested. But by using these kind of prototype, approaches to the treatments that you test, you get really strong evidence. Some things really land hard or don't land at all.